The Journey Home. David was a successful businessman who had everything he wanted: money, fame, power, and respect. He had worked hard to achieve his goals and was proud of his accomplishments. He had a beautiful wife, 2 lovely children, and a luxurious mansion. He traveled the world, met influential people, and enjoyed the finer things in life. But despite all this, David felt empty inside. He felt like he was missing something that he couldn't name or find. He felt restless, dissatisfied, and unhappy. He wondered if this was all there was to life, if he had wasted his time chasing after things that didn't matter. He felt lost, desperate, and confused. He tried to fill the void with more work, more money, more possessions, more pleasures, but nothing seemed to satisfy him. He became depressed, anxious, and irritable. He started to neglect his family, his friends, and his health. He lost interest in everything that he once loved. He felt like he didn't know who he was anymore. One day, he came across a book about Zen Buddhism. He was intrigued by the teachings of simplicity, mindfulness, and enlightenment. He decided to give it a try and see if it could help him find some peace and meaning in his life. He bought more books, attended lectures, joined a meditation group, and even visited a Zen monastery. He learned about the concepts of impermanence, suffering, attachment, ego, and emptiness. He practiced meditation, breathing exercises, and chanting. He tried to follow the precepts of morality, wisdom, and compassion. He hoped that by doing all this, he would discover his true self, the self that was beyond his name, his role, his image, his thoughts, and his feelings, the self that was one with everything and nothing at the same time, the self that was free from suffering and delusion, the self that was pure awareness and bliss. But no matter how hard he tried, he couldn't find it. He still felt the same emptiness and dissatisfaction as before. He still felt like he was searching for something that he couldn't reach or grasp. He still felt like he was lost. He decided to seek the guidance of a Zen master who lived in a remote mountain temple. He heard that this master was very wise and enlightened and could help anyone who came to him with sincere questions. David packed his bags and left his family and business behind. He traveled for many days until he reached the temple. He bowed respectfully to the master and asked him for permission to stay and learn from him. The master agreed and welcomed him warmly. David was overjoyed and hopeful that he had finally found the answer to his problem. He stayed at the temple for several weeks, following the daily routine of the monks, waking up early, meditating, working, eating, studying, sleeping. He observed the master closely and tried to imitate his every move and word. He asked him many questions about Zen and life, and listened attentively to his answers. But still he couldn't find his true self. He became frustrated and impatient. He wondered why the master wasn't helping him more directly, or giving him some special technique or secret formula to achieve enlightenment. He wondered if the master was hiding something from him or testing him somehow. He decided to confront the master and demand an explanation. One day after meditation, he approached the master and said earnestly, "Please, master, I feel lost, desperate. I don't know who I am. Please show me my true self." But the teacher just looked away without responding. David began to plead and beg, "Please, master, don't ignore me. Don't you see how much I'm suffering? Don't you care about me? Please, master, have mercy on me. Show me my true self." But still the master gave no reply. David became angry and resentful. "Master, why are you so cruel? Why are you so silent? Why are you so useless? You're supposed to be a teacher, a guide, a friend, but you're nothing but a fraud, a liar, a fool. You don't know anything about Zen or enlightenment or true self. You're just wasting my time and yours." He turned to leave in disgust. At that moment, the master called out to him by name. "David!" David stopped in his tracks and spun back around. "Yes," he said reflexively. "There it is!" exclaimed the master. David was stunned. He didn't understand what the master meant. "What is it?" he asked confusedly. "Your true self," said the master with a smile. "What do you mean?" said David incredulously. "Your true self is not something that can be shown or taught or found by anyone else," said the master gently. "It is not something that can be searched for or grasped or attained by any means. It is not something that can be lost or hidden or forgotten by any circumstance. It is not something that can be defined or described or explained by any words. It is not something that can be compared or judged or evaluated by any standards. It is not something that can be changed or improved or perfected by any efforts. It is not something that can be added or subtracted or multiplied or divided by any calculations. It is not something that can be affected or influenced or disturbed by any conditions. It is not something that can be created or destroyed or transformed by any causes. It is not something that can be divided or separated or isolated by any boundaries. It is not something that can be dualized or polarized or opposed by any concepts. It is not something that can be categorized or classified or labeled by any attributes. It is not something that can be conditioned or limited or bound by any forms. Your true self is simply what you are, right here, right now, always and forever. It is your natural, spontaneous, effortless, and unchanging state of being. It is your original, inherent, and innate nature. It is your essence, your spirit, your soul. It is your awareness, your consciousness, your presence. It is your life, your breath, your voice. It is your name, your word, your response. Your true self is nothing but yourself. You don't need to look for it or find it or show it or prove it or achieve it or become it. You just need to recognize it and realize it and express it and live it. You just need to be yourself. That's all there is to it. David was speechless. He felt a sudden surge of clarity and understanding. He felt a wave of relief and joy. He felt a burst of gratitude and love. He bowed deeply to the Master and said sincerely, "Thank you, Master. Thank you so much. You have shown me my true self." The Master smiled and said, "No, I have not shown you anything. You have shown yourself to yourself." David smiled and said, "Yes, you're right. I have shown myself to myself." The Master nodded and said, "Good. Now go and show yourself to the world." David nodded and said, "Yes, I will go and show myself to the world." He hugged the Master and left the temple. He returned to his family and business with a new perspective and attitude. He realized that he had everything he needed within himself, and nothing could take it away from him. He realized that he could enjoy the things of the world without being attached to them or dependent on them. He realized that he could work and play and love without being stressed or anxious or unhappy. He realized that he could be himself without being afraid or ashamed or guilty. He realized that he was free. He lived the rest of his life in peace and harmony with himself and others. He shared his wisdom and compassion with everyone he met. He inspired many people to discover their true selves as well. He never felt lost again. The moral lesson of the story is that we don't need to look outside ourselves for our true self, but we can find it within ourselves by being aware and authentic. We don't need to depend on others or things for our happiness, but we can be happy with ourselves as we are. We don't need to change or improve ourselves to be enlightened, but we can realize that we are already enlightened as we are. We don't need to do anything special or extraordinary to be ourselves, but we can just be ourselves in every moment and situation. We don't need to search for our true self, but we can just be our true self.